Hello there. It's 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. We all know what that means. Another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. Last week, my partner in crime was not here. What were you doing, Andy Kahn, with
Oh,
Crime
I
Stoppers?
was up in Huntsville watching an execution. I mean, that's
Typical Tuesday.
Right, yeah.
one
How
of
was your
those things
Tuesday?
that just happened to be there. First execution of the year. So, yeah, it was Robert Frada, obviously a case that's extremely high profile to people in Houston and Harris County and frankly all over the world. And I was actually asked by Farah's late father, or Father Lex Facker. And when Lex health was failing, he said, and I'll do my best Lex imitation. I want you to be there. He goes, if I can't make it, you are going in my place.
Oh, wow.
And I said, absolutely, Lex.
I mean, you really, I mean, obviously, you're always a crime victim advocate, but I mean, you were there more as a personal friend to see this happen for him.
It was. I became obviously very close with the family, with Lex and Farah's parents, and I knew the kids as well. And just an absolutely horrific case, obviously, to begin with. And as I said, if you're going to have the death penalty in the state of Texas, Robert Frada is one of the reasons, why. So it was interesting when we finally got up to Huntsville. And I tell people, I said, it's not some sort of festive party like.
No.
It's a very extremely emotionally draining, grueling day. And it's like time stops because you remember, I mean, this murder took place in 1994, been through 2 trials, been on death row for 26 plus years. I mean, the kids were 7, 6, and 4
Wow.
when their mother was brutally murdered. And
Right.
now they're all in their mid 30s.
Right.
So, and then we're waiting, and that's when all the legal pinball was going
Right,
back
yeah.
and forth. At one time, there was someone that gave a stay, and another time
Over the
drugs.
over the expiration
Right.
date
Right.
of the.
So,
I mean, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to sound flip about it, but it's like, is it going to make you sick? You know what I mean? I didn't get the whole argument of, well, it's a lethal injection. So I mean, if you get some sort of side effect from it, I mean, I didn't understand that at all.
so
I think the point of it is that there's a humane way to end someone's life.
Right.
And if they suffer even an iota of pain
Yeah.
that's not necessary, then that can be considered cruel and unusual.
Yeah. But then you would wonder how, if you're getting this lethal injection,
Right. Who's going to, well, God.
yeah, I mean, you're going to go pretty quick.
Right.
I mean, it just seemed weird to me. And the thing, too, that kind of surprised me, this would have been Robert Frada's opportunity, right, to say, hey, I did this awful deed. I'm sorry. What did he do?
there were several surprises. Number one, I mean, he was pretty well known. I mean, for soliciting women on death row. He had been married, divorced, and engaged on death row.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he actually months ago put out a pen pal wanting, quote, voluptuous women to attend his.
Oh, gosh.
He was very specific. So that excluded you and I.
Right.
Okay, so we didn't make the cut
Right.
on that. So I was surprised there were no witnesses there on his behalf.
Really?
He had a spiritual advisor, which now by court law, you can actually have. That was the first time
That's
I
good.
saw it, so we were surprised at that. And then when they asked him, and keep in mind that one of the children was there, the son, the oldest son was there, and Farah's brother
Mhm.
was there. And they asked Robert Frada, for any last statement
Right.
or words. And at that time, I'm thinking, maybe you'll finally say something.
Yeah.
Right.
And he just went, no,
Oh.
like that. No.
And there have been instances where people have, right, where they've maintained their innocence, but at that moment, before they go, they want to make it right with God or
I've
whatever and
seen-
say,
I've
hey,
been up to 9 executions, and I've seen some that have been extremely remorseful.
Right.
yeah,
For families, and that actually meant a lot. And I've seen others that, could have cared less, but.
That's got to be
I
disappointing
was-
for the family.
right,
It
you know?
was, and one of the family members afterwards just called him a coward.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an appropriate thing. You were a coward back in 1994 when you hired two people
Right.
Right.
to kill your wife, and you were a coward when your son is standing right before you, and you
Mhm.
could have said something.
Just
And
said-
2 trials, you go through 2 trials, 2 different juries find
Right.
you guilty. I mean, that's like, come on.
Yeah,
Have you ever
exactly.
had any clients sentenced to death row?
I have not. I have had several capital murder cases, but luckily I've been able to negotiate the death penalty off the table, and then we'll just proceed as a straight up capital murder, life without parole type of case. So, oh, I'm
Emily?
sorry, Emily DiToto.
Who are you?
Emily DiToto, DETOTO.
People can wander in
Well,
here.
I've never
Oh, wait, what is
talked to
this?
this
Where am
woman
I?
before in my life.
Wait, what is this? Where am I?
The,
Criminal defense attorney, by the way.
would
26.
you, if you had a client that was convicted of death
I was
and
about to be sentenced to death, I would encourage them for a number of reasons, but to, dig deep, be honest.
Yeah.
This is your last chance
Right.
to, don't do it for yourself, do it for,
Right.
I've actually had a family member of my cousin was married to someone who eventually got the death penalty. It was a horrible murder. And she witnessed, his execution, and he didn't give her the closure she wanted. And so it's a catch-22. It's like, if you go there expecting something, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
Because let's face it, the guy murdered someone. You think he's just going to
No,
suddenly.
and we talk, and that's one thing that I do when I tell family members, don't come in there with
Yeah.
thinking that
You're gonna
a
feel better.
slip-
Yeah.
you're-
Right.
It's not.
It's all going to go away and you're going to feel
And
great.
the media likes to use the word closure
Right.
and stuff like that, and we just say it's a chapter in your life book.
And that's an overused word,
Closure.
I think, closure,
Yeah. Well, closure's in the eye of the beholder. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah. And it's like nothing really closes. The pain's not going to go away. It's just a matter of, well, like you said, it's sort of living with it.
I
Right.
remember one mother, and she very poignantly put it like this, and she said, "You know what this means to me?" She said, "I'm done with the criminal justice system."
Well,
Yeah.
and that
She
is
said, "I'm
her
over,
closure.
no more, no
Yeah.
more, a plea,
Right.
no more this, no more phone calls, no more this. I'm done."
Right.
And she said, "I went to my daughter's grave and I said, we're done. We
Right.
finally got this, and I don't have to deal with this anymore."
Well, if anything, the opposite of closure is what comes to my mind is if you've lived your life for 26 years and then you get the call that today's the day, the rush of emotions that every victim's family has to feel.
Yeah.
It's like the person died. It's like getting the call that they're dead all over again.
It's
Right.
like, and I say it's like time stops. When
Exactly.
You're up
Well,
there,
when you
remember.
look at Lex. I mean, Lex went into this, I'm sure, thinking, I will see this happen. I will witness his execution. Well, who thought it was going to take 30 odd years? I mean, it's,
No, and I explained it to people. People were upset because it took, murder took place in 94. He was first
Mhm.
convicted in 96, but you had a retrial.
How
in
did they get
09.
retried? What was the issue that it
The
got
issue was
retried?
the confessions of the other two
Oh, okay.
defendants. So you had a whole new retrial. So the 13 years that he served previously are wiped off the books.
right.
really?
It's like
Yeah.
starting over
It's
again.
basically,
Yeah.
you don't get credited. Yeah, so
Hmm.
it basically, the second trial, when he was convicted in 2009, that starts the timetable.
Hmm.
So that took 13 some odd
Right.
years, so.
And obviously, I mean, when you're talking about ending someone's life, I mean, you want this
Oh, you
appeal
want it to be,
process
yeah, by
that's
the
going to,
book.
yeah, where it's like, okay, we feel beyond a shadow of a
Right.
doubt that this is the correct thing
Right.
to do.
Yeah, because the worst thing you could ever want is to execute someone who's innocent.
Yeah.
You had 3 people on that case that were sentenced to death.
Oh, really?
Yes, 2 of them had retrials.
Yeah.
Again, both sentenced to
Right.
death. The guy that hired the hitman is still on death row. So
So
presumably.
he's the first one to go.
Yeah.
Prada was the first one to go. You still have the other 2 on death row. So presumably, if their executions, finally take place, that would be 3 on this one case, which
Wow.
would tie the Ertman Pena
Yeah.
Yeah.
case, which actually originally had 5,
Right.
but 2 were commuted because they were 17. So you
Oh.
don't normally find multiple.
And what is his name again? The husband?
Robert Frada.
Yeah.
For him to get the death penalty and not actually have caused the death,
Right. Yeah.
like not
Yes.
to be, as we say, the gunman or the
Right.
man,
Yes.
For him just to have solicited
Okay.
a murder and for
Right.
the jury to give him the death penalty,
Yeah.
I'm talking, that was the 90s.
And-
It was,
and-
well, it
That
was
was
the
the
90s.
yeah, yes,
That
yeah.
was a hanging high.
Exactly.
You know,
And you know, too, I mean, it's a stupid argument, but you could always make the argument, well, I didn't mean it, or
Right.
I didn't think it was really going to happen. I mean,
Right.
you could distance yourself
Yeah,
if you're not the actual person.
right. I was venting. I was just,
Right, yeah.
Who doesn't say, I could just kill him? I could just kill
Yeah,
her.
yeah. If everybody that said, oh, I could kill so-and-so was in
Right.
jail, everybody would be in jail.
Right,
If
exactly.
People said I could kill Randy Wallace.
Oh, there's many.
They would be lined up.
How many times have you said
Right, I know.
Outside of the building. Right? We could do a fundraiser. We could be in business for years.
I know.
Just by doing that. And then we can attend,
Right,
Yeah.
we could attend.
Hey, I said a long time ago, if I was ever found dead in a ditch, the list of suspects
Could
would
go
be
on
like,
and on and on.
yeah, the police would be like, there's no way. There's too many people. So we're in a new year. You've been down to the
I
courthouse.
have.
What's it been like, Emily?
I am very impressed with the new batch of judges. I've only been in one courtroom thus far, but I was very impressed with the new judge.
Tell us about that.
Andrea Beal, did
Yeah.
I say her name right?
Yes.
She's a judge of the 185th. She had an opportunity to review my client's bond violations, and she could have revoked him. It was GPS stuff because he was driving his mother, who's elderly, to get treatment. It wasn't that he was out gallivanting or
Yeah.
committing crimes. And she actually said to him that she wanted to help him be successful on bond and gave him a second chance. And I was thoroughly impressed with how she ran her docket. I was thoroughly impressed with her professional demeanor, her attitude. I mean, she looks like she is doing exactly what she was born to do.
She beat Jason Long
She did.
for that
For
court.
the
And
primary and yeah.
yeah, we had interviewed her 2 or 3
Yeah.
times.
She
didn't
was
we?
here several times.
Yeah.
With us here.
She's fantastic.
Was with the DA's office
Yeah. Yes.
for a long time.
I'm not sure
Just
where she was.
a
no.
very
Impressive, yeah.
impressive woman.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We thought very highly.
Not surprised at all that she's doing well.
Yeah.
You made an interesting point before that when it comes to the courthouse, we really didn't learn anything from
We
COVID.
did not learn anything from COVID because I think what we saw during COVID was that court dates are basically not necessary. It's where the sausage is made is between court dates. It's the lawyering, it's the working up of cases, it's the discovery. But now sadly, all the courts have gone back to in-person. And so people who are on bond have to appear, lawyers have to appear, and it just clogs up the system. And so I'm sad to see us going backwards when we had an opportunity to move forward.
It's crazy. I haven't done it well because of the shift I work now, but I can remember many times, you want to get video of somebody in court on the docket call.
Right.
9 a.m., right? The docket calls. It was crazy to
Yeah.
try to get into the building.
Right,
And then you get into the courtroom.
right.
And it's about usually maybe a 2-hour process
Right.
for docket call. And then it's like by noon, the place is empty,
Yeah.
right?
It's not that way anymore, and I'm pleased to see that because a lot of judges are actually using the courtroom for what they're designed to do, and that's to try cases.
Good.
And so back in the day, on any given day at 2 p.m., you could call and it'd be, deserted island. Now at 2 p.m., you can call various district courts and they're doing the business that were elected to do. I'm very pleased to see that.
Yeah. And that's a good thing
Oh yeah,
too.
that's
No
what we
doubt
want,
about it.
especially because COVID. I mean, how many people have sat in custody and weren't able to have their day in court?
Right.
And so now the judges are, they've created emergency dockets. They've appointed various new associate judges, and they have their own courtrooms to pick juries. I mean, they're really trying to facilitate the people who have been deprived of their day in court because of COVID.
Yeah. And no
I
one
like
should be in that,
Right,
in that
especially if you're
situation.
innocent.
Right.
Especially if you're innocent and you're
There was
poor and
a
you've been sitting
pretty
there
high
during COVID.
profile case today that was pled out.
What was
Yes.
And that was
David
the murder of
Castro.
Paul Castro's son, David
Yeah.
Castro.
I don't know who I kind of stay away.
He
from
was
him.
the one that,
The Astros.
yeah, they were leaving an
Oh,
Astros
oh,
game.
what did he get? That's
30
cool.
years.
Oh, wow.
30 years.
So it was just straight up murder or was it
Yeah.
something else?
Yeah. I mean, Paul Castro obviously agreed to that and felt that was fair.
Strangely enough, and I'm telling a lot of victims' families these days, if you get what I would consider a good offer, and I would consider 30 to be a
Right.
legitimate
Yeah.
offer, run with it,
Right.
take it, because
'Cause
juries,
you never know what a
juries
jury's gonna
these
do.
days are
Yeah.
so fickle,
Right.
and it's hard to get 12 people.
Yeah, it just takes
Right.
one
to
person.
agree
Right.
on
Right.
anything. So if you get a reasonable sentence, run with it.
And I would think it would be easier than days, if not weeks of a trial where, you're hearing terrible specific things that happened to
Looking
your
at
loved one.
photos and having to
Yeah.
relive. I
Or
mean,
having
I
other people
agree.
testify on stand, family
Right.
members
Right.
as well. That's a very emotion, as you well know,
Right.
because you've tried, murder cases.
Well, but that was
That's-
also a very quick resolution. I mean, I've had people waiting on murder cases for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And this was just
This
last
was
year.
basically a year and a half.
Right, so
it
that's
took
a quick
place, so
resolution.
How do you
yeah.
kind of, when you're with a client, how do you sort of determine, okay, the plea deal's the way to go, or no, we're going to go to a trial?
Well, normally, I mean, that's why I'm surprised that deal worked out for 30 years, because that's usually their introductory offer is 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's when we basically say that's not an offer, let's set up for trial.
Yeah.
And so that's where the starting point is, I really have a client who wants to sign up to do 30 years.
Yeah.
So even if they were good for it, that's why I'm a little bit shocked, because that's usually their starting offer, maybe 40. And then if they can get down to 30, but it wasn't a capital murder, right?
No,
It was
no.
just a straight up
And,
murder.
what do you got to lose, right?
And
Right,
he-
exactly.
How
And-
old
and the
was
person
Williams?
young.
He's in his mid-30s.
Yeah. So you figure,
So-
but that is, I mean, if you actually served, if you were in your
15 was a
30s
4-year.
and
Yeah.
you served
He'll be younger
30
than me.
years, yeah, I mean, you're
He'll be younger than
talking
me.
about that's sort of the prime of your life that
Exactly. He'll
you'd
still-
lose out on.
Well, no, but I guess the flip side of that, and what I tell my clients is, if you take this 30, you'll be eligible for parole in 15.
Yeah.
You're 30 years old, you'll still be younger than me.
I mean, yeah, if you got, if it was
And
15
you'll
years,
get to get
but how would that
married.
work?
I've already decided every one of your clients, I'm going to block their phone. You
You'll
better be careful.
You'll get to
who you-
get, they'll still be able to get married, they'll still be able to get a job.
How
Their
does
life
that
is
work
not
now?
over.
Would you have to
He'll
serve
be-
half, right?
So
Right.
he'll get time credit for his time
Right.
served in jail.
Which
So
isn't
let's
a
just
lot.
say he served a year, so he'll get
Right.
time credit for that. So he'll have to do 14 calendar years.
Uh-huh.
No good time credits unless that bill passes,
Right,
which they've tried unsuccessfully several times.
Yeah.
Where violent offenders can accumulate good time credits towards parole eligibility. If for whatever reason that passed, then he would go back to being a fourth of an eligible
hmm
plus good time credits. But like I said, I highly doubt it's
So,
going to pass.
but even so, if he gets the 15, he's 30 years old, you said. If he does 15, he'll still have his whole life at it.
Yeah.
And
Which
very
might-
rarely do you get approved parole on your first
Right.
Yeah.
review. And especially in a case that's, quote, high profile.
Well, and it's sad.
Like
I guess
this.
the victim's family must feel bad about that, because if in fact he serves the 15 and gets paroled out, he'll still have his whole life. Meanwhile, their child is still dead.
Right. I
So
mean,
can see
there's
why
just,
they may not want that offer.
it's hard to even sometimes look at something and say that there's justice, because there's never true justice as
No.
far as I'm getting back what I lost. No, you're not. You're
No.
not getting your
Right.
kid back, your loved one back.
Wouldn't it be
So-
great if you could?
Yes,
And all of a
yes.
sudden, after the verdict, your loved one
Yeah, it's
pops
like
back
God
up?
sent them
Yes.
back, and
You
yeah.
can beam them down.
Yeah, that would be
That's-
great.
That would be wonderful.
That
But
would be
yeah,
great.
there's no such thing. I've
What do you
never,
tell your clients when they get a lengthy sentence? I mean,
When they get a
what's that
lengthy
like?
sentence?
Yeah, what's that?
it depends. I mean, if we beat the offer, that it's a win, right?
Yeah.
If they offered 40 years and we get a 15-year, then that's
That,
a
yeah,
win.
that's a win, sure.
But there have been clients that, they've gotten life sentences, life on, it started as capital murder. We beat the capital, that just becomes murder. And then they get life, but it's still not LWOP. It's still not life without parole.
Right.
So, but what I do tell them is, I said, you know who you are, you know where you came from, keep your head up and use this time wisely.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, if you, okay,
don't make it worse for your family.
I'm your client, and you truly, I mean, believe that, that you can get me off, that
Right.
it's not that strong of a case.
Right.
But then, and the DA's office, they see that too. It's not the strongest
Right,
case.
yeah.
So if they said, hey, 5 years,
Right.
would you say, hey, do the 5 years?
I've
Right?
had this conversation. I had this conversation just last week. My client already had about 3 years credit, or no, 1 year credit. I'm sorry, and they were offering him 2, and that he wanted probation. And I was like, if let's say they give you a 6-year probation, if on the 5th year, the 364th day you mess up,
Yeah.
they can give you 10 years behind something you
Right.
did 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just
Deferred
get it over
probation.
with.
Yeah. Deferred probation can come back and haunt you.
Right.
Because like you said, if you did one thing wrong,
Right.
the
6
judge
years
could
later,
sentence you to the
Resurrect-
maximum you face.
they could resurrect the entire range of punishment. And so I basically, was like, look, and I like to pull this, you're going to be younger than me thing. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm getting so old. I can use that. But I'm like, look, you'll get parole. You might even get paroled out of Harris County Jail.
And that's how that can happen.
And I can't promise them that or
Right.
guarantee them that. And they're not allowed to take that advice into consideration when deciding whether to plea. I can give them anecdotal evidence, which I do. But I sometimes have to say, look, you don't know what a jury's going to do.
Right.
But I can tell you that on a murder, a jury's probably not going to give you 5 years. So,
Right.
and I just leave them be in their space to think. And then they often call their family members. And I mean, it's got to be a tough thing to
Yeah.
know you're going to prison.
Like in a situation like that, how much time would somebody usually have to make the decision?
It depends. I mean, sometimes the judge will give us a couple hours. They might reset it a couple weeks. But it's just hard.
Yeah.
Normally people who are in custody, it's an easier transition for them to go from the Harris County Jail to TDC because they're not in the free world.
Right. Yeah.
But it's very hard when someone gets a taste of freedom, they're on bond, and then the DAs come at them with a large number because it's 99% likely that they're never going to want to go back.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's why I tell the family sometimes, I'm like, look, don't waste your money. I mean, I don't want to say waste your money in a bond, but your bondsman's not going to go to court for you. Your
Right,
bondsman's not
right,
going to do
yeah.
the legal research for you. He's
Yeah.
not going to go to trial for you. And then you're still going to owe them, even if he gets acquitted or goes off to prison.
Yeah.
You're still on the hook on that
For
contract.
the money. Yeah.
So, but a lot of times, and it's hard for me to say that to my client's family because then they take it as I'm not on their team, but I am.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I just know better. You know
Are
what I
you
mean?
surprised at some of the high bond amounts that we're seeing right now?
I was surprised at a low bond amount I saw earlier on a murder first degree case, given all the publicity that you guys, all the spotlight you've been putting
Yeah.
on everyone.
We've been blamed for
A lot of things.
Yeah,
High
right.
bonds. People have said,
Well,
you're the reason my client's got $1 million bond.
Yeah.
well, I have a client who's on $1 million bond right now. It's a capital murder case. I've done the research. I've read the reports. At best, the best evidence they have against him, and I say best, is a co-defendant, which the law instructs the jury to disregard.
Yeah.
Because if it was between you and me, I'd throw you under the bus.
Well, sure. Right. Yeah.
Andy, maybe not.
I've seen the bond amounts trending much higher over the last
Right.
few years. Would
Yeah.
you agree with that?
Yes, but the only people who make money off of that are the bondsmen.
Right.
If
Well,
they-
really
Oh,
over
they're
the
like-
last few months, when you think about it, I mean, high bonds.
I've seen amounts that I've never seen in my life.
Well, $1 million,
Right.
$1 million bond. I mean, I've
$500,000,
seen more of
yeah.
those. And like I said, the only thing that the evidence they have on my client is the co-defendant.
Yeah.
Because I always do a list with my clients. So if you, in a perfect world, if you were on a jury, what kind of evidence would you want? Fingerprints, photographs, confession,
Yeah.
la la la. And
Law and
they don't
order,
have
it's
any
all
of that.
Yeah.
They don't have any of that.
Well, and now when you look at all these crime shows,
Oh,
I think that's what people expect. It's
Right.
like, well, where's the DNA and where's the
exactly.
physical scientific evidence that you had?
Right.
Don't tell me that so-and-so said you did it. I
Right.
need a lot more than that.
Right. I mean, and that's what the prosecutors are savvy about that. So on the front end during jury selection, they tell the jurors, they inoculate them against wanting more. I kind of find that offensive because they're making excuses for their lack of evidence
Yeah.
and lowering the burden.
Right. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
It's like,
not,
yeah,
you
you would think, yeah, I want everything. I want to hear
Yeah,
everything.
they're like,
Everything's
oh,
reality in this
right.
day and age
Yeah.
because of the media.
Right. But
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we wish we had a confession. We wish we had this. We wish. And this is in jury selection. In my mind, I'm thinking they're just making excuses for the evidence they're not going to have
Right.
and wanting the jurors to just give the state a pass for not having the evidence that we as human beings and jurors would want.
Do you think that jurors have changed, that the juries have changed over the last decade or so?
I think they've gotten smarter. I really do. When I was a baby lawyer, it was like pulling teeth to get jurors to talk.
Yeah.
And maybe that was not me. I wasn't a good lawyer. I don't know. But it seems the last several cases I've tried, I've gotten some amazingly intelligent, savvy repeat jurors and just, people that are just real.
Yeah.
They're not preconceived. They're smart enough to know how to get off the jury, but they don't use that excuse.
Yeah.
I've really been impressed by the people that have been
I
shot.
mean, it is something that, as a citizen, we should all
I would
do
love to
and
be
be
on a
proud
jury.
of.
Have you been on a jury?
Are you kidding me? I'm the first one bounced.
Yeah.
Have
When I made it all the way through a capital murder case years and years ago, McSpadden was
wow.
the judge. And what they were doing, they were going through everything. And McSpadden says, I know you,
that's funny.
you knowing me, would that make you?
Right.
And I'm like, no, it makes no difference to me. And I made it all the way till they were striking.
Oh, wow.
And the defense struck me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was not a good call on their part.
That's what I
would
thought.
keep you because
Who's
you
the
know
defense
both
lawyer?
sides.
Yeah. Huh?
Who was the defense?
Oh, I don't
That
remember.
was
This
so
was
We
long
need to
ago.
go back and find out.
Right? Let's pull
Bring
that.
them-
Let's-
bring them
It
on.
was so
Right.
long
Yeah,
ago,
know
they're
that.
probably
Bring them
dead.
on.
I've been called to jury duty. I was the 248th. I got to sit with the 64 people and I knew I was going to get struck, but the judge made me sit there anyway.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of liked seeing other lawyers do their jury selection,
Yeah.
learn what to do, what not to do, and
Yeah.
then I thought I got struck, but
What's the lowest bond that you've gotten for a defendant charged with a violent crime? Do you know? Give me a
Oh,
ballpark
my.
figure. So we're talking about like a 3G offense,
probably like 10,000.
Okay, I was just curious.
And I was shocked. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I kind of just asked as a joke. And
I mean, that's not
they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh,
$1,000. I mean, it's it's
Right.
doable. Coming up
Right.
with $1,000 is doable.
right. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a tease for.
I was going to say, there's a segue.
Oh, that's why you did it. I feel
Yes.
set up now.
There's
I
a
should have said
re-
something different.
there's a
You're
reason
gonna-
they said that.
Yeah, you're going to want to watch tonight's Breaking Bond on Fox 26 News at 9. It's crazy.
You're not gonna trust me on this one. We've been doing this for over 2 years, and we keep saying,
It can't
God,
get.
we've never seen that before. This one, truly,
Yeah.
we've never seen anything like this.
Nothing surprises me anymore about this.
So,
Right.
you're gonna trust me. Tune in. This one is gonna blow you away.
Yeah.
That's a big.
And hey,
teaser
thanks
right
so
there.
much for joining
Makes
us.
you kind of wonder what it is, don't you?
Right?
See?
Emily will be watching.
I will be watching totally.
Emily, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here with us. Thank you all for watching this live stream, and please share it on YouTube. Have a great day, and be sure to tune in to Breaking Bond tonight at 9. Bye.
I'm excited to see it.
Do you
It's a
wanna
good
know
one.
Yeah,
what
I
this
want to know.
is?
Of
You
course, I
see
want to
this?
know. Oh,
Because that's the total bond.
are you serious?
Yeah.
On what?
Ag kidnapping,
What?
assault with intent to impede breathing, 8 prior felony convictions, been to prison twice.
We need to take video. of
Wait
this
a
dog.
minute. Wait. How? What? Who?
Are we
No
through?
wait.
Yeah. Oh,
We can't give it away. Be sure to watch. Bye.
sorry. We're just supposed